OOSKAnews is delighted to be joined today by Fourie, Global Director Water for AB Inbev, the world's largest brewing company. Thanks for joining us, Andre. Can you take a moment or two to tell our readers what your role involves at AB Inbev?
It's a pleasure to join you. Water is always close to the heart of a brewing company. And my role is to make sure that we, across the world, have access to good quality water, to ensure good quality beer, and that we invest in the watershed surrounding our operations in areas where there's water stress.
And for the lay drinker and lay reader, AB InBev, obviously water is a very key ingredient for beer, but beer production is water intensive in other ways, in other ingredients and processing. You described some of this at a water conference we both attended last week. Perhaps you could have take a moment to tell us more about that.
If you look at beer across the life cycle of the product, more than 90% of the water used in beer is accounted for in the agricultural production process. So it's typically the barley and the hops and other adjuncts used in the brewing process. So it's therefore very important for us to ensure that we invest in protecting water sources in areas where we source from, but also that we demonstrate world-class practices in our own operation. So that's where we have much more direct control, and that's why we have a very proud history of investing in water efficiency and driving down water use from more than 5 litres of water for a litre of beer a few years ago to about 3 litres of water at the moment.
As a corporate, you have been active in water stewardship for a number of years. What prompted our conversation today was a presentation you made at the FT Water Investment Conference in London this week, which made particular mention of 2 new water security partnerships with NGOs in the water space, whom our readers and listeners will be familiar with, the Nature Conservancy and WWF. What is particularly new in these initiatives, Andre?
Firstly, it's driven by API's new Sustainable Development Strategy, where we announced a very bold set of commitments across water, agriculture, packaging, and energy. And in the water space particularly, we committed ourselves to ensuring measurable impact in all the high-risk watersheds where we operate in terms of water availability and water quality. So we know that we need partners in order to deliver that bold goal, and we have long-standing relationships with both WWF and the Nature Conservancy, and that's the first part that underpins our stepping up of our work. The second part is, together with those partners, we all realize that while we have been involved in watersheds and partnerships for a number of years, the challenge is just getting bigger and bigger, and we need to start engaging at the level of the problem. With the water security challenge growing so rapidly globally, we really need to step up, and therefore these partnerships are not just more of the same, but really attempts to step up in terms of scale, in terms of pace, and in terms of investment in water security.
OOSKAnews will provide links to statements from WWF and TNC that describe these particular partnerships in some more detail. And certainly, well, you just mentioned, referred to high-risk watersheds. The geographies that these new initiatives focus on are broadly, I believe, Latin America and Africa. You use the phrase high-risk watershed. What does that mean? Why are some geographies more challenging than others?
The reality is that many sites have individual water challenges. So yes, Africa and Latin America have broad water concerns, but each site has its unique watershed challenges, and therefore it's very important that we design unique responses in each and every one of these high-risk watersheds. But broadly, in Latin America, it's very clear that surface water is under pressure, and therefore it's important to work with organizations such as TNC to invest in upstream activities. So making sure that we partner with others in terms of setting up water funds and assisting farmers upstream to change their agricultural practices, or convincing mining companies to improve their water treatment. So in Latin America, it's on the impact, both the quality and the quantity of the surface water. In Africa, typically infrastructure, that's a major problem, and therefore partnerships with the WWF are very important for us in terms of working with local authorities and water authorities in terms of helping them provide the quality or the quantity of water that's required. Of course, we know also in India, Middle America, places like Mexico, there's increasing evidence of declining groundwater levels, so the aquifers are being depleted, and therefore we have to invest with our partners in activities to help recharge those aquifers or reduce the load on them.
And you've averred to how the internal process and more efficient water usage is easier to manage for a brewing company, but a huge corporate like ABI, the water footprint, so much of it lies further back in the supply chain and out with direct control and oversight. You mentioned mining companies and farmers, but how thorough can your company be? What are the challenges in improving the overall water footprint picture?
So we have a very clear long-term vision of investing in and partnering with others in terms of securing the water in the areas in which we source brewing material, and therefore we need to stand a number of critical dimensions. The first thing for us is to delve deep into what are the exact water challenges in those areas in terms of the quality or the quantity or regulatory issues. And therefore we've developed a water map based on the WWF water risk filter, so in terms of understanding the water risk in each of the areas where we source. We ensure that we double check that with our local operations, because sometimes the local water picture is not the same as what global maps indicate. But based on that understanding, we double reference that with our sourcing volume, understanding how important that is for the group. And then with very particular criteria, we look at local stakeholder interests and concerns. So sometimes it's possible to maybe source from a neighboring area. Sometimes it's very important for local stakeholders that we don't. And in those cases, we very much invest with them in terms of how do we secure the future of that crop in that area. It's very well known that agriculture consumes more than 70% of water, fresh water globally, and therefore that is typically a sector where there are opportunities for savings. And therefore, a great opportunity for us to work with our farmers and our growers in terms of finding ways of saving water.
And a driver for this is surely consumer awareness of environmentally responsible brands and perhaps increasingly water responsible brands. So there's an obvious corporate social responsibility motivation for responsible water use. But you've got to be a hard-headed corporate thinker too. How does one explain the corporate and shareholder value case internally for responsible water use?
So clearly starting point is no water, no beer. If you don't have water, we can't brew beer. So therefore, saving water doesn't just save money in terms of electricity and pumping costs and consumption, etc., but it also reduces our investment required. By investing in securing our supply, we reduce disruptions or potential disruptions to our operations. And we know that we can help improve the quality of the water. We also reduce the treatment costs for us. But we know that that gap or that relationship between the brewery and the immediate surrounding is porous in terms of water. So therefore, it's very important for us to also invest in the local watershed to ensure that we have common security with those around us. Water, we will never be an island of prosperity if the people around us don't have access to water. And that's why our brand, Stella Artois, has invested significantly in water access, and we're getting really good feedback from consumers in terms of relating to that as a very positive message for the brand.
So Inbev, ABI is taking a lead among brewing companies, beverage companies. And at the Water Summit meeting last week, there was also a presentation by the CEO of one of your competitors, Heineken. Do you detect a trend in your sector, brewing and more broadly food and beverages, for water awareness and water stewardship? If so, what's driving that?
Yes, I have no doubt that the beverage sector is the leading sector in terms of watershed investment, and water security and water stewardship. And we see that both through the individual efforts of companies such as that you mentioned, but also in the beverage industry environmental roundtable, a forum where we beverage industry on a global basis discuss common concerns. And water is very high on the agenda of that group, and we really see the sector stepping forward. I don't think it's a secret that many of our global peers have experienced very high-profile water disruptions to their operations, and it's something that the sector is very aware of because water is very close to our direct operations, as you mentioned, also a very key part of our supply chain. So it's not a surprise that the beverage sector would probably feel the growing water stress more than other sectors.
Thinking about other sectors, as we were encouraged to do at last week's occasion in London, beyond beverage, beyond food and beverage, are you exposed to other industries thinking? Another one that is making moves might perhaps be the garment and fashion industries. Do you detect a trend and people following the path of the beverage industry in raised awareness and best practice in water stewardship responsibilities?
Yes, I think water is rising on the agenda across a number of sectors. Certainly the garment and fashion industry, I think, has become very aware of the importance of water, but also some of the potential pollution on their supply chain. And similarly with mining, certainly at a global level, I think the mining industry has become very aware of its impact on water in local geographies around the world. So I see the mining sector at least starting on that journey to take water much more seriously.
Finishing on a positive note, and thank you very much for your time today, Andre Fourie.
It's a pleasure joining you.